You never really expect your life to change with a single sentence. But sometimes, that's all it takes. For me, it was a Tuesday evening, the kind that feels like any other. I was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through emails, when my wife, Julia, breezed in, suitcase in hand, and a bright, practiced smile on her face. She said, "It's just a work trip, don't worry." I looked up, trying to read her expression. Julia worked in marketing, and business trips weren't unusual. But something about the way she said it, too casual, too rehearsed, made me pause. I wanted to ask questions, to dig deeper, but I didn't. I just nodded, told her to have a safe flight, and watched as she disappeared out the door. That night, the house felt emptier than usual. I tried to distract myself with television, but my mind kept drifting back to Julia. We'd been married for 6 years, and I'd always trusted her. But lately, things had felt off. She was distant, distracted, always on her phone, always working late. I told myself it was just stress, that every marriage had its rough patches. But the doubt lingered, gnawing at the edges of my mind. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Julia. "Landed safe. Meetings all day. Love you." I stared at the screen, trying to convince myself that everything was fine. But the message felt cold, impersonal. I replied, "Glad you're safe. Good luck with your meetings. Love you too." No response. The days passed slowly. Julia sent the occasional text short, clipped updates about work, the hotel, the weather. I tried to keep busy, throwing myself into work, meeting up with friends, anything to keep my mind from wandering. But every night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what she was really doing. On Thursday, I got a call from my friend Mark. He sounded hesitant, almost nervous. "Hey man, are you busy?" "Not really. What's up?" There was a pause. "I got something you need to see. Can I come over?" 20 minutes later, Mark was at my door, phone in hand. He looked uncomfortable, like he'd rather be anywhere else. He handed me his phone, and I saw a video playing on the screen. The footage was shaky, clearly taken at a party or a club. The music was loud, people were laughing and dancing. And there, in the middle of it all, was Julia, my wife, dancing with a man I recognized from her office, her boss. They were close, too close. She was laughing, her arms around his neck, his hands on her waist. They looked like a couple, not colleagues. My stomach dropped. I watched the video twice, 3 times, hoping I was seeing it wrong. But there was no mistaking it. That was Julia. That was my wife. Mark cleared his throat. "I'm sorry, man. My cousin works at the hotel where they're staying. He sent me this. Said he thought you should know." I handed the phone back, my hands shaking. I felt numb, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. "Thanks for telling me," I said, my voice flat. After Mark left, I sat in silence, the video replaying in my mind. I wanted to scream, to break something, to call Julia and demand an explanation. But I didn't. Instead, I sat there, letting the reality sink in. My wife was cheating on me, and she hadn't even bothered to hide it. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the empty space beside me, replaying every moment of our marriage. The late nights, the secretive texts, the sudden work trips. It all made sense now. I felt stupid for not seeing it sooner. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg or plead or try to fix something that was already broken. I was done. I got up, showered, and started making calls. First, to a lawyer. Then, to a locksmith. Then, to a moving company. By noon, I'd filed for divorce. By 2, the locks on the house had been changed. By 4, Julia's things were packed up and moved into storage. I worked methodically, refusing to let myself feel anything. This wasn't about revenge. It was about taking control, about protecting myself from any more pain. When I finished, I sat in the living room, surrounded by silence. The house felt different, emptier, but also lighter. I poured myself a drink, sat back, and waited. That evening, Julia called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was cheerful, oblivious. "Hey, just finished dinner with the team. Hope you're having a good night. Miss you." I deleted the message without listening to the rest. I spent the next day tying up loose ends, canceling joint accounts, forwarding her mail, making sure everything was in order. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just moved on. On Sunday, Julia texted, "Heading home tomorrow. Can't wait to see you." I didn't reply. Monday morning arrived with a strange sense of calm. I woke up early, made coffee, and sat by the window, watching the world outside come to life. The house was quiet, almost peaceful. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was just existing, and it felt good. Around noon, I got a text from Julia. "Flight landed. Be home in an hour. Can't wait to see you." I stared at the message, my mind blank. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked through the house one last time, making sure everything was in place. Her things were gone, the locks were changed, and the divorce papers were sitting on the kitchen table, right where she'd see them the moment she walked in, if she could even get in. I sat on the couch, phone in hand, waiting. My heart was pounding, but my mind was clear. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared. I was just ready. An hour later, I heard the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. I stood up, moving to the hallway, out of sight, but close enough to hear everything. The front door rattled, then stopped. I heard Julia's voice, muffled and confused. She tried the key again, then knocked, her voice rising. "Hello? Why won't the door open?" I waited a moment, then stepped into view. She looked up, her face a mix of confusion and annoyance. "Why did you change the locks?" she demanded. I kept my voice calm. "We need to talk." She frowned, glancing past me into the house. "What's going on? Where's my stuff?" I gestured to the kitchen table. "Your things are in storage. The address and key are in that envelope, and those are divorce papers. You might want to read them." For a moment, Julia just stared at me, as if she couldn't process what was happening. Then her face twisted in anger. "Are you serious? You're divorcing me? Over what, a stupid work trip?" I met her gaze, steady and unflinching. "It wasn't just a work trip, Julia. I saw the video. You and your boss, dancing, laughing, acting like a couple." Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "Who sent you that?" "It doesn't matter. What matters is that you lied to me, repeatedly. I'm done." She tried to push past me, but I blocked the door. "You can't do this. This is my home too." I shook my head. "Not anymore. The house is in my name. The lawyer explained everything. You'll find all the details in the papers." Julia's anger gave way to desperation. "Please, let's just talk about this. It was nothing, I swear. Just a little fun at the party. It didn't mean anything." I felt a pang of sadness, but I didn't let it show. "It meant enough for you to hide it, to lie, to make me feel like I was crazy for doubting you. I'm not doing this anymore." She stared at me, tears welling in her eyes. "You're really ending our marriage over a dance?" I took a deep breath. "I'm ending our marriage because you broke my trust, because you made me feel small and stupid and unimportant. I deserve better than that." For a long moment, Julia just stood there, silent. Then she turned and walked away. Her shoulders slumped. I watched her go, feeling a strange mix of relief and grief. It was over. Really over. I closed the door, locking it behind me. The house was quiet again, but this time, the silence felt different. It felt like freedom. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I called my lawyer, confirming that Julia had received the papers. I called the storage company, making sure her things were secure. I changed the passwords on all my accounts, just in case. I even called my parents, letting them know what had happened. They were shocked, but supportive. "You did the right thing," my mom said. "You deserve to be happy." That night, I sat on the back porch, watching the sun set. I thought about everything that had happened, the lies, the betrayal, the heartbreak. I thought about the man I used to be, the man who would have begged Julia to stay, who would have forgiven her, who would have tried to fix something that was already broken. I wasn't that man anymore. My phone buzzed, a message from Julia. "Please, can we talk? I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I love you." I stared at the screen, my heart heavy. For a moment I considered replying. I considered giving her another chance. But then I remembered the video, the lies, the way she'd made me feel. I put the phone down, letting the message go unanswered. The next morning I woke up to a string of missed calls and texts. Julia was desperate now, begging for forgiveness, promising to change. But I knew better. I'd heard it all before. I spent the day cleaning the house, getting rid of anything that reminded me of her. Old photos, gifts, little notes she'd left around the house. I boxed it all up and dropped it off at the storage unit. It was cathartic, like shedding an old skin. By evening, the house felt new, empty but full of possibility. I ordered takeout, watched a movie, and for the first time in months, I slept soundly. The days that followed felt surreal, as if I were living someone else's life. Each morning, I woke up expecting to hear Julia's footsteps in the hallway, her voice calling out for coffee, her laughter echoing from the kitchen. But the house remained silent, and I realized how much of my world had revolved around her presence, even when that presence had become a shadow. Friends and family reached out, some in shock, others quietly admitting they'd noticed the distance between us long before I did. My father, never one for many words, simply said, "You did what you had to do, son." My mother, on the other hand, insisted on coming over with home-cooked meals and gentle reassurances. I let her fuss over me, grateful for the comfort. Julia's messages kept coming, at first pleading, then angry, then desperate again. She tried every angle, reminding me of our good times, promising to change, even blaming her boss for taking advantage of her. But I'd seen the video. I'd seen the way she smiled at him, the way she leaned in, the way she forgot the world around her. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. One evening, a week after she'd come home to find the locks changed and her life packed away, Julia showed up at my office. She waited in the lobby, her eyes red, her hair pulled back in a way that made her look younger, more vulnerable. My receptionist called to warn me, but I told her to let Julia in. I needed closure as much as she did. She walked in slowly, clutching her purse like a lifeline. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. She sat, her hands trembling. "I know I messed up," she began, her eyes searching mine for any sign of forgiveness. I was lonely. I felt like we were drifting apart, and when my boss started paying attention to me, I liked it. I'm not proud of what I did, but I never meant to hurt you. I listened, letting her words hang in the air. I could see the regret in her eyes, but I also saw the same patterns, the excuses, the shifting of blame, the hope that I would be the one to fix things. "I appreciate your honesty," I said quietly. "But you didn't just hurt me, Julia. You broke my trust. You made me question everything about our marriage. I can't go back to the way things were. I don't want to." She wiped her eyes, nodding. "I understand. I wish things were different." "So do I admitted. "But we can't change the past. All we can do is move forward." She stood, hesitating for a moment, before reaching out to touch my hand. I let her, feeling the finality in that simple gesture. "Goodbye, Julia," I said. "Goodbye," she whispered, and then she was gone. After she left, I sat in my office for a long time, staring out the window as the city lights flickered on. I felt lighter, as if a weight I'd been carrying for years had finally been lifted. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be lonely nights, awkward conversations, and moments of doubt. But I also knew I was stronger than I'd ever been. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I reconnected with old friends, picked up hobbies I'd abandoned, and even started going to the gym again. I found joy in small things: a good book, a long walk, a quiet evening at home. The pain of betrayal faded, replaced by a sense of possibility. One afternoon, Mark invited me out for drinks. We sat at our usual spot, the same bar where Julia and I had celebrated anniversaries, birthdays, and ordinary Fridays. It felt strange at first, but as the night wore on, I realized I was ready to make new memories. "You seem different," Mark observed, raising his glass. "Lighter." "I am," I said, smiling. "For the first time in a long time, I feel like myself." He nodded, clinking his glass against mine. "Two new beginnings." "Two new beginnings," I echoed. As I walked home that night, the city felt alive in a way I hadn't noticed in years. I thought about everything I'd been through, the love, the loss, the heartbreak, and realized that sometimes the hardest endings lead to the best beginnings. When I got home, I stood in the doorway for a moment, taking it all in. The house was still and quiet, but it no longer felt empty. It felt like mine. I knew there would be challenges ahead, but I also knew I was ready to face them. I poured myself a drink, sat on the porch, and watched the stars. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. I didn't have all the answers, but I had something better, a fresh start, and the freedom to write my own story.